Alright guys, and welcome back to askNK. So in today's video we have something that we have seen before, and we have actually talked about this tool. And what we did when we talked about this tool, we looked at it, we looked at how you can make use of it. So there was this video I did long time ago which is called Vectary Beautiful Web 3D app, and we went through Vectary. We did a complete walkthrough about how you can play with the tool, and afterwards, in about some few days, they released Vectary 3, and Vectary 3.0 comes with certain promises, and the promises which they come with doesn't have a complete good side. There is also one downside to it, which I think you could actually take with a grain of salt. And if you come through to the website, which is called vectary.com, you would be able to notice that we have a much more darker theme here, which suggests that something new or something dark is coming to Vectary, and this dark stuff that is coming is just coming to the UI. And what that means is they have now integrated that theme to the UI. Personally, if you see this particular video, I wasn't so much of a fan when it comes to using the white screen, especially in these days when we all complain about the blue light pumping out of the screen. You definitely need something that's a little bit lighter on your eyes, and so the dark theme is something that we are going to also look at, and I will talk to you about certain things and relative apps that has similar stuff. I actually think that some of the things that are working now in Vectary have a sister or a borrowed feature from one of the apps that exist, and I'll talk to you about that as well. So what happens is, in case you don't know what Vectary is, this is a 3D web-based app where you can just simply come through, make your 3D stuff, and then you can share it directly on Facebook, or and maybe share it wherever that accepts AR. And this is something that is beginning to grow gradually, and a lot of people are beginning to, invest inside of it. And what we can look at is, if we come through to the features that has been made possible. So if I just simply go over here, you could see that some of the features that has actually made their way here is they've tried as much as possible to integrate things like modifiers. You can see the modifier thing here. They've added modifiers to this new version. They have also added a new kind of subscription, and I am not particularly okay with that, but I think a couple of people might like it, but I am not particularly okay with the entire subscription thing. And the UI has been reworked. So if you check this previous video which we did, you can see where we have all of this UI, and it's a bit of a tiny pain, working with something like this. And now they've gone through to rework the UI. If I increase the screen or enlarge the screen, as it may say, you might also notice, let's just play this and let it be so that we can see the base. You can also notice that somewhere within the base here we have like the 3D asset, we have materials, light, environment, add-ons, and all that stuff. You can also notice that on the other side where we have the share project and render, there is basically nothing there. And on the top, this looks very simple from a first user standpoint, but from an average user or someone that has been making use of various 3D apps, this is not standard in any way possible. It is not. It comes in differently, but then we don't really have all of that ease of use when it comes to making use of especially the tools that comes in with Vectary. Let's go ahead and explore this new version of Vectary, and I'm going to show you a couple of things you probably should know when using this particular tool. And so when you come over to Vectary for the first time, let's say you've never used Vectary before, and you come through and log in, or let's say sign up with the website, you would be able to get in and see a step-by-step tutorial on how you can navigate the UI. Definitely the UI is still something I'm going to talk to you about, but then in case you don't know how to navigate the UI, there is a tool, more like a tooltip, more like a guide that presents the UI to you when you're coming in for the first time. And this is something I am particularly happy about for this particular tool. And I'll talk about the pricing at the end of the video, so I don't deter you with it for now. So what we're going to look at is, once you are in, they give you a dashboard, and this dashboard simply means that you can see all of the projects you have been working with, and then you can move away from these ones. You can select one, you can choose to delete the project, you can make copies of this project. You can also integrate this project into something totally different. You can also collaborate with various people. But the thing now is, since they have created a new kind of subscription plan, your subscription plan when you're using a free version has a lot of limitations. Okay, we'll look at those limitations later. Jump into Vectary, and this is what Vectary looks like. A brand new UI, totally far away from what we have here, way miles away far. And this is something I particularly like about this tool. Okay, I like this new feature they have done, but I am not okay with certain things that they put inside here. I'm going to explain those things and explain even the icon that pisses me the most. There is an icon here that I have no reason why they couldn't just tilt it the other way. Looking at the export, for example, this looks like import, it doesn't look like export. Believe me, if you lost the entire text on your browser, you would not see this as export. Especially when you find this and it is called export and you look directly here, and this also seems to be the same icon with this. This is something I think they should fix. If they can, I think they should really fix it. The menu now, we have this burger menu here, and this burger menu is basically where most of the settings and most of the things that you're going to work with are existing. So you can import, you can save, you can come through to the settings and make your settings. Let's look at the dark mode real quick. So dark mode, you turn the dark mode off, and this is what I would like to use. I don't know what you think. If it's something you would want to use, you can go ahead, and play with it. For this undo, you can, increase the number of undos you want by just pushing the slider up and down. You can increase the number of undos which you want, and reduce them as you please. Other things that you can do from here is, if you want to get an X-ray shading, it's turned on. If you want to change the field of view for your camera, it's also here. You can come through to change it. Several people I've noticed work with 50 millimeters. I personally work with either 35 or 40. It's your preference. You can choose. I've seen some people that particularly like working with 75. So depending on what you want to do, you can come through and do that. I'm not a fan of grid, so most times in my work I kind of turn off the grid. So if you like grids, you can put those grids there. If you want millimeters, if you want inches, you can get them there. Let's look at the tools and see what they have made. So if you come through here, you can see we have all of these primitives, which are things that you can use to make your creation. First things first, these primitives remind me of Cinema 4D. Okay, it reminds me of Cinema 4D. Do we have this in Maya 3D Studio Max? No. These tools, basically, they remind me of Cinema 4D. I'm going to just pop up Cinema 4D in a few seconds, and then we can talk about that as well. Other things that we have here as brand new are the modifiers. They kind of call this deform. When in Maya it's called deformers, but in various apps they're called modifiers. And for some reason, I don't know, but a couple of people call these generators, but these are modifiers. Okay, so these are deformers, these are modifiers, depending on how you call it or what 3D app you're making use of. You can now bring in a new camera, you can now play with the light properly, contrary to that other point where you have to come through and start looking for stuffs here. So let's get in something. And once you get this in, I have this box directly here. I can choose to come through and increase or reduce the segment of the box. And by the way, how you can move around this tool is by simply holding the left mouse button, and you can rotate. And with the right mouse button, you can pan, zoom in and zoom out. Very classic, very simple. Okay, so you don't necessarily need to put your hand on the keyboard when working with this. Okay, this is the only thing which I think they kept that they didn't copy from Cinema 4D, so just in case you're wondering why. Within this part, you can come through and increase the scale, increase the length, the width and the depth segment of your geometry. If you want to start modeling with this geometry, then you have to convert it. This is practically exactly what you can get in Cinema 4D. I'm going to just simply add a modifier to this so that we can look at this together. So if I come through and come over here and put a subdivision surface modifier, you would notice I have a subdivision here. This becomes a parent, this becomes a child to this, which is automatically the parent. Okay, so how does this relate with Cinema 4D? I have Cinema 4D opened here, and if I come through and click on this, you would notice that I have exactly the same thing. If I come within this object, I have the length, the height, and all of these other segments here. Okay, within the coordinate, you definitely have basically the coordinate where it exists in your scene and that. So what I'm trying to explain to you is when you want to create an object, for example, in Cinema, you would notice that we have basically almost the same sort of stuff, except for the guide, relief, figure, landscape. This is something I think they call the the polyhedron, or let's check that out. Okay, so it is called polyhedron. Okay, so it's called polyhedron there. So within here, you would also notice that for us to start editing this stuff in Cinema, we definitely need to convert it. You definitely have to convert it before you can start editing. And how does the subdivision work? Exactly the same. So if you've not used Cinema before, if you want to subdivide an object, you need to hold down Alt and click on the deformer. Okay, so if I just click on here, now you see we have subdivision surface and we have the cube. So just something you can play with. Does this replace Cinema 4D? No. They just borrow certain tools or certain methods of creating stuff and integrated it there. Also, if you check through the modifier list that exists in Cinema, you would also notice that we have a ton of resemblance. Like we have the twist, we have the bend, we have the taper, we have this, we have smoothing, we have something called noise on the other side. We have we don't have jiggle because they don't support animation. We have sperify, and I also think we have squash and stretch. So if you come through and look at Vectary, you would also notice that we have all of those stuff. So we have the bend now, and once I add a bend, you can notice it's another parent to this, the same exact way it works in Cinema. Like if you come through and add a bend, it becomes the parent of the subdivision and also of the cube, and that simply means you can now have this bend and you can now bend it based off any angle you want. So if I come through and start playing with this, you can see I can now bend this based off any angle I want. Okay, the same thing happens with the taper and the entire thing all together. Let's see how we can make our modifications just in case we want. And another thing I like about this app, something that they kept, is the parametric gizmo. The gizmo is still here, so it simply means you can move in different angles at the same time. You can scale from different angles at the same time, and you can also rotate at different angles at the same time. Okay, so this is something I'm particularly happy about. So if you want to create, let's say you want to start editing or modifying your object, you definitely need to convert it to a geometry. You can choose to click here to convert it to a geometry, or you can come through and just simply click on edit. It's going to prompt a question and ask, are you sure you want to bake this, or you want to cancel and just use modifiers on this? And we want to bake it, and I'm just going to click on bake. And now once I'm done baking this, you can now see I have all of my editing tools. They are readily available for us to go. This is another thing that I seriously like, the fact that I have a multi-selection. Multi-selection simply means I can select the face at a point, and I can come through and also just jump through and select an edge, and also jump through and select something totally different. Okay, so we have multi-selection on the fly. So once you just come through and select this, you have this multi-selection, so you can select that edge if you the vertex if you want. And once you're done with that, you don't need to like switch, say switch from edge to this. You can just come through and select this. It is smart enough to know what you're selecting at a given point. And if you want to do that, selecting vertices, selecting edges, and selecting faces at various times, you can also access them by here. A cool thing with this is once I have this part selected, if I come through, you can see it selects the surrounding borders. Exactly the same thing that we see when we're working with 3D Studio Max, something we see when we're working with Rocket 3F. So in case you didn't see the video about Rocket 3F, links is going to be in the description, and also I'm going to put a card and an end note, so just in case you want to see that amazing tool that I love so much. Okay, so editing is simple. We can come through, make a rapid selection like this, and from the previous time, we simply just have to use certain tools that exist around here. Those tools did not go away. They still kept these tools here, but it is way more better for you to simply come through and use the tools that exist here to create what you want to create. So for this extrude, I'm just going to click on extrude, and then let's just make this local. So I can now click on extrude and just extrude this by the local axis, and I can also scale this down by that local axis. You can choose to make this a global one. You can also come through and choose to just reset the entire thing how you want it to be. So if you switch this, you can see I'm having a different result altogether. So let's just go back one step, and so we can get what we want. So I'm having this here, and this is the entire global axis of everything combined, and not the last one which was selected. And then I can come through and just simply extrude. And with this extrusion now, I can just simply extrude my object towards a given point. Okay, so whenever you're done doing your extrusion, let's say you want to play with other tools that exist, this is your mesh tools, and you can call upon this mesh tool at any point in time. So let's say you have a broken part, you want to weld them together, you want to smooth them together, you can call upon this. Now, another question I might be having at the end of the video is a couple of people might come through and ask stuff like what if you want to add the modifiers to your final work? Of course, you can still add modifiers to your final stuff. So how you can do that is you can just simply come through, select them, and then you would be able to just throw in a modifier, and the modifier will be applied to your object. Something like the subdivision, for example, which I'm beginning to love since I started making this video, is once you put it, you can increase the level and reduce the level, and you can also come through and bake this. So in case you don't want to go back and forth, exactly the same thing you can get in Blender, for example. That is basically the kind of things you can also get here. Rendering has been made better, and the entire thing with the library, which we used to have down here before, used to be a bit frustrating when you cannot see everything, but now the library now exists here. So if you click on the library here, you can check out the libraries of stuff that exist. You can also check out the 3D assets of things that exist. The filtering here doesn't really work that much. Okay, the filtering doesn't really work that much, and it's not something that I think they are going to fix anytime soon. I think, except maybe there is a situation where they have to come up with a new update, then they can fix it. But for now, the filtering doesn't really work as good as you may think. Okay, we have this other session where you can search for materials, and you can just click and drop materials onto your models. We also have a session where you can change the HDRI light of the entire scene, and when you're done, you can now choose to embed this in case you want to work with it on a web, or you can simply just come through and share. And now you can share directly from here to Sketchfab. You can also share to My Mini Factory, and the other one, which is the Vectary. These are things that already existed before, and I'm just giving a reiteration of what I made in the previous video. So if you want to see how Vectary looks like in the earlier, before they made this update, of course you can come through and go watch that video. And if you just want to simply use this one, you can definitely look at it from here. Other things you can see is we have the snapping. This is something that was a little bit shaggy for me to find out earlier. So the snapping works, and it works properly fine. So Vectary is out here, and it is something I would suggest that you should lay your hands on and try. Now let's talk about this pricing. For the pricing, there is a couple of things I am not so comfortable about. Okay, there is a couple of things I'm not so comfortable about. The fact that for the pricing, you begin to lose the ability to export when previously we were able to export is something I don't really like. You have to pay $9 for you to export something like this. It is not something that I would really enjoy doing. Other things that I'm not so comfortable about is, even when you pay that $9, there are certain things you cannot have access to. You cannot have access to team projects. Okay, you can only have access to about 100 personal projects. When you're using the free version, you only have access to 3 personal projects. This is something I think they need to look at. I think they really need to take a hard look at this. And you're paying this money per month, and you cannot have a team folder. You cannot do a team project with this tool. It is something I totally think they need to reconsider this particular plan. Why is everyone going subscription based? I understand it's something that the whole market is looking out for, but it is totally insane that you're paying this amount. Of course, it is a good slash from 19, but it's totally insane that you're paying this amount and you cannot get a team project, and you cannot get some of these features that exist. So I would like to know what you guys think about this in the comment section. Definitely Blender is better than this. In case you just don't have Blender and you have to make your model online, this is what you need. Okay, you need something like this. Clara.io is 5 years better than this. It's totally free, and it comes with the VRAY rendering cloud engine. And so if you want to check out Clara.io, links is going to be in the description. You can check out Clara.io and play with that tool as well. There are also other tools that we've covered that are free, and they are web-based, and there are also other tools that we've covered that are free, and they're also desktop-based. So I'd like to know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Would you move over to this tool? Is this tool worth your time? I would like you to try it as well. In as much as I have tried it, I would like you to, try it, see what works for you, and tell me what you think about this in the comment section below. And if you like this video, simply give it a like, and don't forget to share with your friends. And if you're new here, it will be amazing if you can hit that subscribe button and also turn on notification. So once I put out a new video, you'll be the first to know. And until I come your way again with a news, rant, tutorial, review, update, or something like this, peace.